So in this video, we're going to be talking about the Persian Invasions, one of the most important turning points in Greek history. So what's important to understand here is what exactly this war is about. This is not a war or a set of wars that is about territory. This is not a war that is about a Persian need to expand. Or to be aggressive. The Persians had extended the Persian Empire to the natural extent of its frontiers in all directions, and was essentially stable and unthreatened in the military sense, at least. The problem was that the Greeks posed a threat to them ideologically. The idea that people were fundamentally free, inherently free, was a idea that would have undermined the entire Persian Empire. And so the Persians see the strength of the Greeks and the Greek idea as a direct threat to the fundamental strength and stability of the empire itself. And the need to invade was in many ways a response to this. There is a direct stimulus, which has to do with rebellions against Persian rule over Greek peoples in Anatolia, which occurred right at the turn of the century, 499. But this rebellion was, again, not a direct threat to the Persian Empire, but rather exposed the problem that the Greeks posed to the Persians in their central authority, in their philosophy of rule. So the invasion of the Aegean world, of the Greek area, took place within 10 years. The Persians expected this to be relatively straightforward. They estimated the Greeks to be easily beatable on the basis of their numerical inferiority, their divisions amongst themselves, and their wealth. All of these areas, the Persians had a huge advantage. The Persians are unified. The Persian Empire is extremely wealthy and were able to call upon vast resources, vast numbers of soldiers and materiel in order to make this war. And so they expected it to be a relatively straightforward affair. When they found out that it wasn't going to be so, that the Greeks were going to be more difficult to beat, they pulled back and regrouped and began their invasion again with more fervor and aggression. So this is why there are essentially two invasions. It's essentially the same war, but with an intermission in which the Persians regroup and rethink their mode of attack, their plan of conquest over the Greeks. So this begins with the Ionian Revolt, and the Ionian Revolt has as much to do with the misbehavior of satraps, and actually it's a puppet king under Persian control that causes this problem. Essentially, there's some aggression, some ambition, some greed that for power that upsets this whole thing. But simmering underneath this was a discontent that even though the Greek peoples of Western Anatolia were being treated well by their Persian overlords, all things considered, there is a profound discomfort with the nature of the Persian Empire itself. This is a low-grade problem that wasn't enough for the Anatolian Greeks to risk death and destruction at the hands of the immensely powerful Persians to try to shake them off. But once the Ionian Revolt took place, it instigated an attempted uprising, which was in some ways initially successful. It drew the Athenians in, which potentially caused some problems as well, and made the Persians directly aware of the Athenians and the Western Greeks that they hadn't directly had to deal with. Moreover, the other thing that happens in the Ionian Revolt is that there's a destruction at Sardis, which was a great ancient city that had been venerated by both sides, and both the Persians and the Anatolian Greeks blamed each other for this. And so the destruction of Sardis became sort of a rallying point on both sides. So when the Darian invasion, the first invasion, took place in 490, the chief event of this is the landing of Persian troops at Marathon, being the means to a direct attack upon Athens, partly in retaliation for their involvement in the Ionian Revolt. And what happens at Marathon is what sort of sets the tone on both sides. The Athenians bring everything that they have to bear, expecting to lose to the might of the Persian Empire, which just by reputation is overawing. Moreover, the Spartans are unable to come to help in the defense of Greece because of a religious festival that does not allow them to leave home at this particular time. The Spartans do eventually show up once they are freed from this ritual. But at the end of the day, this means that Athens, essentially alone, has to fight against the power of the Persian Empire. And the fact that Athens wins this battle through strategy and tactics, the fact that they make the best possible use of the hoplite phalanx against the Persians at their most vulnerable moment, as they are in the process of disembarking from their ships on the shores of Marathon. The fact that Athens wins this battle changes everything. It means for the Persians, of course, that the Greeks are a much more formidable enemy than they had possibly anticipated, and it causes them to temporarily withdraw while they regroup and rethink the whole invasion. But it means for the Greeks that it is possible to win against the Persians. This is something that the Persian Empire is enormously vast. This enormous power to the east of them that has swallowed up the entire civilized world from Egypt to the shores of India. And, the idea that it might be possible to defeat them was something that they had dared not hope, much more so that it would be Athens able to do so without the support of Sparta. Sparta was the military hegemon of the Greeks. It was called upon to, everybody expected Sparta to be the defender of the Greek world should there be this kind of occasion. With Sparta absent, Athens alone was able to persevere and succeed. And this empowers the Greeks because it seems to embody the ability to fight for freedom, not even just fighting for their land, fighting to defend their cities, but fighting to defend the very Greek idea seems to have empowered the Greeks strongly enough to defeat the Persians. This carries everything forward. In the intervening period, the Greeks are aware that the Persians are going to return, and it just so happens that Athens comes into a windfall as a result of being able to access a new silver mine that provides them with a great deal of wealth. And the question of what to do with this money comes before the Athenian assembly. And, the main idea seems to be to distribute it amongst the citizenry. in order to, raise the overall standard of living for everyone in Athens. And this has a lot of support until Themistocles, who is, a member of the assembly and a well-known figure, but on the other hand, not anybody of huge fame. Themistocles stands up before the assembly and says, we need to use this money in order to build ships. We cannot become a greater power, by land overnight. But what we can do is to build ships in order to become a naval power more so than we already are. We have an understanding and familiarity with the sea through centuries of trade. We can make use of this. The Persians are terrible at sea. The Persians come from deep inland and have no familiarity, no natural affinity to the sea. We here in Athens know the sea well, and if we create a fleet of ships, we can create an advantage over the Persians and use it to defend Athens and Greece. And so the silver is invested in creating a large fleet of triremes, the most advanced military vessels of the time. Unlike ordinary commercial vessels, triremes are especially fast and especially versatile. They're because of their speed, which is propelled by 3 rows of oarsmen along its entire length. The triremes are able to both move very quickly and turn very quickly. So this makes them extremely useful and flexible at sea. The main weapon of a trireme, you'll see at the front here, is the battering ram, the bronze prow, which can be brought to bear against an enemy vessel. The sails that you see here are of secondary importance. You can't count on wind at sea, and so this is very much about being able to convert the muscle power of men into both speed and versatility. And so when the second invasion takes place under Darius' successor Xerxes, the Athenians are ready, and so are the Spartans. And so which is good, because the Persians, the Persian plan is a powerful 2-pronged approach to attack by land and sea. And so they march their armies around the Aegean through the Balkans, through Thrace, through Macedonia, and down into the Greek mainland, heading once again for Athens as the primary target, while at the same time launching a great fleet, which is primarily sort of mercenary loans to them through the expertise of the Phoenicians and other coastal powers that are part of the Persian Empire. And at Thermopylae, Thermopylae is the bottleneck that the Persians must get through. It's a narrow space in between mountains and the sea that is easily defended. And at the Battle of Thermopylae, the Spartans stand their ground with a core set of troops of only 300 Spartans. The prospects for this of being able to hold Thermopylae indefinitely against the vast Persian army of thousands and thousands of troops with swords and arrows and everything at their command is positive up until the point at which the Persians are betrayed. The Spartans are betrayed and are shown a path through the mountains that gets them around this pass and able to engineer a two-pronged attack against the Spartan defenders. The Spartans are entirely wiped out, the Spartans defending at Thermopylae. Nonetheless, even though the Spartans lose, which is sometimes forgotten in glorifying the Spartans that fought at Thermopylae, the fact that the Spartans lose at Thermopylae is in some ways of secondary importance, because Thermopylae does two things. A, it buys time for the Athenians to be able to evacuate Athens and prepare themselves for the arrival of the Persians. And B, the glory, the awe embodied in the defense of Thermopylae and the willingness of the Spartans fighting there to die to the last man, to defend Greece against the Persians, to defend what it is to be Greek against what it is to be Persian, to fend off these people that are all enslaved to a single great king. Inspires and motivates and thrills the rest of the Greeks. And so at the Battle of Salamis, another narrow space where this time at sea, a naval battle takes place, this time to the glory of Athens, and this time successful. The Battle of Athens is a huge victory for the Athenians and their new and thoroughly trained and drilled naval fleet, their new armada against the Persian enemy. They're able to use trickery to trap the Persian navy and destroy them effectively, and all of this while the Persian land commanders are watching from the promontory overlooking Salamis and seeing the capability that the Greeks have even at sea, something that they were previously even unaware of, the extent to which this was possible. And so the culmination of the second invasion, the Battle of Plataea, is essentially the Greek forces in alliance fighting a great land battle against the Persians in order to drive them out of Greece. Between Salamis and even Thermopylae, the Persians had already become aware of how difficult and costly a victory over the Greeks would be, that the Greeks would fight to the last man and resist them all the way, and moreover would never accept. Would never really truly accept Persian overlordship, that the conquest would be difficult, but the dominion would be impossible. And so the Battle of Plataea, in which the Greeks defeat the land armies of Mardonius and work together to destroy the Persians, is the last straw. The Persians withdraw and understand that the conquest of the Greeks is going to be impossible. This is, and the legacy of Salamis is additionally, has a long shadow for the Greeks themselves, because it establishes Athens as a military power at sea in a way that the Spartans cannot be. The Spartans are the unquestioned power in land. But even there, Marathon and Plataea had proven that the Athenians could stand alongside the Spartans and fight successfully. That it wasn't only down to the Spartans; that the Athenian phalanx was formidable as well. And then on top of this, the Athenians had unquestioned supremacy at sea. As a result, Salamis meant that the Greeks had a choice when it came to leadership, and this became immediately relevant in the years after the Persian invasions. And we'll talk about that in a moment. For now, that's that.